Most people think of creative financing strategies like subject to only as a method to acquire long-term buy and hold properties with little to no money down. While you certainly can, you can also do creative deals that you quickly flip for profit, and I'm going to show you how using a real live deal and how I made a $33,000 profit doing it. So get ready to watch me flip a subject to deal coming up.
The Real Estate Funding Kit is out now. Learn how to get 100% funding for all your deals without dealing with the banks. Claim your free copy at myfundingkit.com.
On today's video, I want to break down for you how I flipped a subject to deal for a $33,000 profit. But first, in case you don't know, subject to is a creative financing strategy where you as an investor buy a property by leveraging the seller's existing financing. Now let me quickly explain. With traditional real estate, when a seller has an existing loan on his home and he decides to sell, the existing loan must get paid off in full and the seller gets to keep whatever the difference is. That difference is the seller's equity. However, using a creative financing strategy called subject to, instead of paying off the seller's existing loan, you, the investor, take over the loan and then pay the seller that difference. Now, if you'd like to watch an in-depth explanation of subject to, I did a video that breaks it down. I'll put the link to that video in the description box below and you can check it out later. But let me use one of my deals to illustrate how it works. This was a deal I recently acquired from a private seller. Now, she originally wanted $140,000 for her house and had an existing loan of $76,000. And following an offer technique I used, I initially offered her $100,000 cash, but then told her if she'd let me buy her house subject to her existing financing of $76,000, I could pay $10,000 more and buy it for $110,000, which she agreed. So at closing, I took over her existing loan of $76,000 and then paid the seller the difference of $34,000. Now this was a win for both me and the seller. Think about it. For the seller, regardless of what I pay, she only gets to keep her equity at closing, so my subject to offer put $10,000 more in her pocket than my cash offer. And for me, I bought a great deal and only had to come up with $34,000 instead of the full $110,000 to get into the deal. Everybody wins. Now, I did a video all about it and how I negotiated that deal, including a live call breakdown. If you want to watch that, I'll put the link to that video in the description below and you can watch it later. And by the way, on my deal, once the seller agreed to my offer of $110,000 subject to over the phone, I used my rock solid subject to contract pack, which has all the exact paperwork needed to structure a subject to deal. And even better, I turned over the entire process to my creative financing team, who handled everything from working with the seller, the paperwork, taking over the loan, closing, and title work. And for being a loyal subscriber to my YouTube channel, I'll give you my subject to contract pack for free and a 30% off discount code to use my creative financing team for full service transactions. Now I'll put the link to that in the description below for you. Now, once I secured the deal and I executed a written contract with the seller, I had 30 days until closing, at which time I would need approximately $34,000 in funds to close on the deal. So let's discuss 3 different options I considered, the pros and cons of each, and the option I ended up choosing and why. Okay, option number 1 is to wholesale the deal. Now let's say that I didn't have $34,000 for the down payment, and let's say that I didn't want to raise the funds and borrow $34,000 either. If that were the case, I could wholesale my subject to deal to another investor by doing a simple assignment of contract. Now, an assignment agreement is a simple document that transfers all of the rights and obligations of my subject to contract to the new investor for a fee. And initially, I considered wholesaling my deal and I put it out there for sale to my cash buyers, and the best offer was for $130,000, which I turned down. Why? Because I'm not a one-trick pony and I was convinced I could do better, which you'll see, so keep watching. But let's say that I took that offer for $130,000. How would that look? Well, I'd use my special sub-to assignment agreement, which I give you for free. It's included in my subject to contract pack, and I would assign the deal for $130,000. At closing, the buyer would bring $34,000 for the seller, $20,000 for me, and then take over the seller's loan of $76,000. I would make $20,000 without using any cash or credit, and that would be an awesome wholesale deal, but I didn't choose that option. Option 2 is to fix and flip the property. As soon as I secured the contract with the seller, I had my contractors go to the property to bid the work needed to fix it up, and the cost to do flooring and paint and new counters, appliances, redo the bathroom, and some work in the partially finished basement, all of that came to $24,000. The after repair value or price it will sell for after rehabbing it based on recent sold comps in the neighborhood was $190,000. Now, assuming I hit those numbers, how much would I make? Well, let's take a look at the numbers. It would cost approximately $15,000 to cover commissions and closing fees, and if I borrowed the down payment money of $34,000 and the rehab money of $24,000 at 12% interest for, let's say, 3 months, that would be $1,700 in interest payments, and don't forget 3 payments on the seller's loan that I took over of $775 per month for a total of approximately $4,000 in financing, or what I call carrying cost. Now keep in mind, that means I would be doing this deal with 100% funding. So after subtracting closing costs of $15,000 and carrying cost of $4,000, and after subtracting the purchase of $110,000 and the rehab of $24,000, I would make a net profit of $37,000, which would be a great little fix and flip, but I didn't choose that option either. The third option, which is my favorite flipping strategy right now, is to wholesale the deal. Wholesale is a term used when you wholesale a house to a retail buyer without doing any rehab. And this was the option I chose. So instead of spending $24,000 rehabbing it to resell it for $190,000, instead I closed on the property, I funded the down payment of $34,000, then without touching it, no rehab at all, I put it up for sale on market for $155,000 as is. And after a few days, I had over 30 showings and I got a full price offer of $155,000 from a 20% down conventional buyer, which I accepted. The total turnaround time was just under 60 days. So let's take a look at the numbers. Since I print money, I just use my own personal cash to fund the $34,000 down payment on the purchase, so I didn't have any carrying costs. But if I borrowed the funds from private money at 12% interest for 60 days, it would cost $680 plus 2 payments on the seller's loan for a total of $2,200 in total carrying costs. So after paying some commissions and closing fees of approximately $12,000, my net profit on the deal is $33,000. So let's do a side-by-side comparison of all 3 options so you can see why I chose option 3 to wholesale the deal. Option 1, which is an assignment of contract for $20,000. Pros are no capital needed and you get paid right up front at closing, so no waiting for your profit. It's a zero risk deal. The downside is you're leaving $13,000 in additional profit on the table if you wholesaled it, and $17,000 in additional profit on the table if you fix and flipped it. Okay, option 2 was the fix and flip. Now the pros are you make the biggest profit of $37,000. The cons are you're in the deal for at least 90 days. You have a lot more work to do because you have to manage a rehab and you have to raise $58,000 in funding. But still not a bad option for a fairly simple fix and flip. And option 3 was the wholesale. Compared to wholesaling, you make $33,000 instead of $20,000, but you have to raise $34,000 in funds for the down payment to close on the purchase, and you have to wait 60 days to get paid. Compared to the fix and flip option, you only make $4,000 less, but you don't have to do a rehab, and you turn the deal in 60 days instead of 90 days, and you only need to raise $34,000 in capital instead of $58,000 in capital. I don't know about you, but for me, it's a no-brainer. Wholesale for a $33,000 profit is the clear winner. It's the biggest profit for the least amount of effort of time, energy, and effort. As far as investing my money in a deal, I pretty much doubled my money in 60 days. Now, if you think that's brilliant, leave a comment and say, Jerry, you did it again. You are a flipping genius. And if you're thinking a lack of funding is holding you back from doing a deal like this, let me help you overcome that. I've raised millions of dollars in private money to fund deals, and there's 2 things that you need to know about private money. One, it's readily available, and two, it's all around you. You just have to know how to find it. So to help you raise all the money you need, I put together a kit with everything I use to raise money for deals, and I'll give it to you for free. Just go to myfundingkit.com. Next, I want you to watch a video where I explain more about how to wholesale houses for much bigger profits than doing traditional wholesaling. Now watch that now, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. With over 625 videos, this is the #1 channel on YouTube for all things wholesaling and flipping, and I'll see you on the next video.